Minds Podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. We are welcoming our friend all the way out in
Utah. Sandy, Utah, baby.
Utah.
Sandy. Where's the
Sandy,
snow?
like, not really sandy here, although the desert is kind of close, but snow's coming. Mountains are frosted, at least the tips of them, but their bottom are like colorful as could be.
Love frosted tips.
My friend, shut up. My friend is out in Nevada, and he had some like dust in the morning, like some, a little bit of snow in the morning. I was like, God dang, already?
Yeah, it surprised me too. I mean, coming from the Northeast, like it was like 80 and sunny one Thursday afternoon, and probably 4 days later, it was just consistent 40s and snow in the mountains.
Yeah.
Windshields are starting to freeze in the morning sometimes over here. It's getting weird.
Ooh, it is getting scary.
But you know what isn't freezing over?
The crypto market.
The crypto market.
That's right.
We got to ask you, is Bitcoin ever going to go down?
I think you're definitely going to see some more volatile periods. It happened in 2018 and it happened in 2013. Big crashes on the order of certainly more than 30%. Do I have any idea when that will happen? Obviously not. I am a mere mortal, but I think long term it's only going to go up. But if you can ride the bumps, it'll be a great ride.
What do you think is the reason, or I guess one of your reasons, why you think it's only going to go up? Do you think it's strictly because of you can't make more Bitcoin? Like it is what's that called?
Scarcity.
Right.
But before you answer that question, let me just state that Bitcoin is hovering around 62,500 at the recording of this podcast.
And let me say that I should have sold yesterday afternoon.
Because in the last 24 hours, it is down 5.23%.
Big mistake. Or put it all into Ethereum when it was up 6% today.
And
now
Ethereum is
Ethereum's
currently
down.
at 4,100. Anyway, going back to the thing, do you believe that Bitcoin is a scarcity? And because it is, quote unquote, only so many coins can be mined, is that the main reason why people should invest?
Certainly one of the biggest contributors, that's for sure. So you guys are talking about the 21 million cap. I think it'll happen like in 2041, something or 2141, something like that. Yes, that's definitely one reason to invest. And if you think about the current fiat currency situation, where essentially at will the central bank can turn up the dial on how much money's in the system, there's really no guaranteed control of scarcity at all. And anytime humans have control over money, it's basically been a corruptible thing since the beginning of human time. There's actually this story about the Europeans going to Africa early on. Don't quote me on the year, something like 400 years ago. And they used to use these little glass pearls as currency in this African nation. And the Europeans, when they first came over, they found out that they used this as currency very quickly. And since the technology in Europe at the time was so much more advanced, the Europeans basically sent boats back to King G and said, hey, manufacture the living hell out of these little glass pearls. And they just started diluting the currency by the boatload. So they would ship in huge European ships full of these pearls that they were able to manufacture. And they basically, over decades, just diluted the hell out of the currency in Africa. And they were basically getting all of the goods and services of this specific African tribe for nothing. So that was basically a really good example about how valuable scarcity is, especially in a system like Bitcoin, where you have absolute control and it's guaranteed to only ever be 21 million. So you guys are talking about, I should have sold, I should have bought. I think that people who are long on Bitcoin, they should be thinking, at least when they're buying Bitcoin, that they're not buying at the current cap, which is, I don't even know how many millions, but they should think about them buying into the pool of 21 million. So however many, whatever fraction of a Bitcoin you're going to be buying, think of it as 1 in 21 million.
That is a cool story. I didn't know that. And the current circulating supply is 18.85 million. So we are getting very close to the 21 million that are supposedly no more can get out there.
Where do they come from?
Well, I don't know if anyone else can, but I can't obviously describe the blockchain and the mechanics of why there's only 21. I think it's just in its code, if you will, capped out.
Yeah, but how are they not already accessible? It's one guy that created Bitcoin. I forgot what his name was. I read about it the other day.
Satoshi Nagusami, something like that.
But how are those...
Satoshi Nakamoto, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
the creator of Nintendo. Well,
who, by the way, that person right now, the way the system started, they have 1 million off the get. And a lot of people think that that's just considered gone, along with anyone who forgot about their private key, who also holds Bitcoin or a lot of Bitcoin.
Yep.
So that's the other bit of it is, yes, it's going to be 21 million, but you have to think about all the people who are going to have lost their keys forever or just might forget that they had it. Right. And all of a sudden it's only actually going to be 20 million. The coins themselves come from the miners in the network. So anyone can register to be a miner. People can get a little Raspberry Pi for $60, whatever it's going for these days, and set that system up to be a miner.
Do you think mining is better today, or do you think it'll be anytime valuable or even just profitable? Because of, obviously it takes so much energy to mine these coins. Like they have crazy rigs out in like the coldest places.
Yep.
And they're just burning fucking, they're burning out. I don't know if it's actually energy efficient to do it.
I guess right now they're saying that all of the energy that goes into mining and confirming transactions currently is like 0.04% of global tracked energy. That doesn't count like people burning firewood for, cooking their dinner or whatever, but like actual tracked energy.
To go on to a little bit of a tangent, Kurzgesagt in one of their recent videos talked about if you can individually try and stop climate change, and they came down to the fact that if you did everything to reduce your carbon footprint in a reasonable way, the only thing that you would change in your 75-year experience on this earth is 1 second of the energy supply. 1 second. That's it. You change your entire life for 1 second.
Yeah, but I wonder how much damage you're doing. Like that's only on the good side. You can basically go backwards 1 second. But imagine all the damage you could do.
What do you mean?
Just throw those windows open in the winter and blast the heat for your entire life.
Yeah, I mean how much...
on the opposite spectrum,
exactly.
Like what you can contribute?
Yeah.
You could go exponential. Just buy a Bitcoin mine and just start going at it.
Let's say in your 75 years or 80 years on average life, you could...
Running off a coal-burning engine.
Well, what I'm saying is like if you just did everything bad, you like you're saying, had your windows open but blasting the heat, you were driving your car, it was very... whatever. You're just buying stuff on Amazon, wasting all this. You're getting your huge footprint. It'd probably quote unquote, kill the earth maybe like 2 minutes. No, probably like a minute, which is insane. I'm just saying is insane percentage wise versus that 1 second that you could save.
You think you're that important that you could kill a minute off the earth?
I think you could do some damage.
I wonder what the biggest individual consumer, how many minutes or seconds compared to someone who's just like off the grid doing nothing, what that gap is.
I feel people could take a minute off the Earth's life.
Just have an engine that keeps flushing the toilet all the time.
If the best
drain
you
the
could
well
do,
supply underneath your house.
If the best you could do is go backwards 1 second or extend it a second, maybe that's a better word. Extend the life 1 second. I feel like the worst you could do is probably take off a minute, which is 60x, which is what? 60,000%? No.
6,000%.
I guess if you'd get rid of your stove. How hardcore was the Kurzgesagt video? Was it like get rid of all electronics, never fly, never like only ride a bicycle? Was it just like annihilating all those things?
Yeah.
Because I do see what like on the upside of it, you could buy 4 more cars or buy, I don't know. You could definitely crank it more than you could reduce it. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because it definitely have to be something that is constantly using fuel in some way. Like just because you're buying 4 cars, they're already in production. Like you're not driving all 4 cars at the same moment.
I'm leaving those on in the driveway just for grins.
Dude, but you could. I mean, you could buy cars and just turn them on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, you could do that, but chances are you wouldn't. But if that's what you're going for,
right? Okay. Anyway, we're getting way out of here. But to be clear, obviously, none of us are financial advisors or
crypto experts.
Yeah, exactly, crypto experts or anything like that. But I did get on the Bitcoin train pretty early. As before that 2018 hype when it almost went to 20,000, and I was in around $3,000. That's how much a Bitcoin was.
Well played. That's big.
Dude, it was the Wild West. This is kind of like some of the stuff I want to share. I would be on websites where you could get 10, 20%, throw it back in, 20%, throw it back in, 20%. I was doing these things called ICOs, which is essentially, an IPO, initial public offering. This was initial coin. Initial coin offering. I would be online at like 3 a.m. trying to get like a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, sometimes we hit the jackpot. Me and my roommate, we would get like 60,000. It would end up being like $60,000, but not every time would even the website stay alive. I mean, these people were bandits. They would just hype up this ICO, and then the second it went live, it was just shut down. But you would try, and sometimes we did make our money. So it's just funny how we went from that point to now we're on an ETF on the NASDAQ, or at least somewhere along the largest markets in the world.
Well, I guess to go off of that, when it comes to scarcity of Bitcoin, what makes Bitcoin necessarily any better than an ICO that's coming out? Like there could be a new Bitcoin. I understand right now that's kind of just that's the standard.
It's just the
in
name
the market.
Brand. Yeah, exactly. That's a home.
But how does that, if you can have ICOs all the time, or there's obviously, millions of coins out there, basically why does that make Bitcoin so scarce? I understand that it has a finite maximum to it, but in that sense, it's almost like printing dollars.
The arguments that I've heard on this front basically all revolve around the idea that all of these cryptocurrencies are just a network of trust in the first place. And Bitcoin was, yes, the first, but that's not the only thing that gives it the brand recognition and the value here. I guess the main argument is that essentially because of the sacrifices that Bitcoin made to not rush any part of what makes it the best store of value comparable to gold, is that essentially everybody bought into it early on. So it got early momentum. And even then it's taken 10 years. But all these ICOs that you're referring to now, all of them have incentives to get people through the door to start buying them. Bitcoin did none of that, never has done any of that. And it's playing the slow game and purposefully didn't include any of the things, even like smart contracts like Ethereum did. It didn't try to cut any of the corners, and it just tried to be purely digital money. So it's that early first of the game, yes, but it's also the fact that it didn't try to add all the bells and whistles at the code or protocol level in order to be optimized for security. That's really the number one thing that gives it its kingdom. But I guess to your point too, someone could start another type of coin that had the exact same characteristics as Bitcoin, exact same code, exact same protocols. And then at that point, that would be when it's like, well, okay, now it's just the brand name.
Right, because they do end up doing these things called the forks, which, again, I'm not fully knowledgeable on, but they basically can branch off. They can add more Satoshis in like a certain way. But as you mentioned, the thing that everyone likes is, one, it can't be diluted or blown out by inflation. I mean, again, supposedly, since there is only 21 million that can be mined, there should be in theory, a minimum that would become. That's, again, if people even like it. I mean, you could apply that to anything. You could say rocks. There's only 21 million of these rocks. The scarcity gets everyone excited. The value of it would go up because of its rarity. Mm-hmm. And obviously its ledger, the fact that it has to be completely copied for anything to be broken. And that's what Ethereum is like very attractive, is because you can have these contracts, you can even buy like houses through them, etc. And we know that this contract is legit because for someone to change that one block, they would have to change
everything in front of it and behind it, which is as close to impossible as you can get.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is a lot of these big mining companies are going public now, which means they have to adhere, especially in the Americas, to certain business practice standards. Because the theoretical idea about how you could break the blockchain is what you both said, but you'd need at least 51% of the compute power in the entire network to do so.
Right.
So some of these big players that do own 10% of the market, they could team up to do something like that. But not only are they already separately public, but a lot of them basically just wouldn't be incentivized to do that in the first place, because by doing that, they would basically break the system that is continually keeping them wealthy. And then it would crash and there'd be really no reason for doing it. So you'd end up in a situation where it's possible, but very unlikely, very, very, very unlikely. And to do so would basically just be someone who's a bad actor that wants to ruin the network at large for whatever reason. Just something that's very interesting and has been for at least a decade now proven itself to be secure and reliable. But the fact that it's freeing up people all over the world who, they call them the unbanked, people who couldn't have a bank because their central government was either too corrupt or whatever like that. It gives all of them a system. Think about how many people are working in America right now, sending money home to people anywhere in the world, El Salvador, really anywhere. And they have to go to Western Union and they have to pay a certain percentage of the entire principal that they're sending to actually send that money. It's like with Bitcoin, that's completely free and it's completely secure and it's instantaneous. So if it's 4:00 on a Saturday, you can get your money where it needs to be right away. And the transactional fee is absolutely minimal. It's like pennies to actually send it through. And to me, it's the freedom principles and the morality principles that come with it that are really easy to bet on top of the security that it provides.
Yeah, and I totally hear you out. Of course, I've heard a lot of these thoughts, and they're all valid. I think for me, it's the fact that I think the hype train is because of the scarcity, and that's whatever to me. But what does scare me is that the dollar, specifically the US dollar, can be deflated or wiped out by inflation, of course. And that's what's kind of effed up. I mean, once we took it off the gold standard, which is a crazy concept to even think about, to even understand, but it's just so insane that something can be just so manipulated that it can be basically wiped out, to the fact that you can have trillions of dollars like they have in Africa. I believe they have a bill that's worth $1 trillion Zimbabwe's or whatever it is, but it's literally worth a fraction of a penny. So that part I think is cool. Do I actually think Bitcoin has value in the fact that it's going to be the next US dollar? Not yet. I mean, I'm more excited about Ethereum, but I still do have my doubts in the fact that all governments, including China, Russia, freaking everyone, they would allow some people's coin, make it. That's the part where I don't trust it, in the fact that the government is going to just let something that's designed to be more so fair win.
Yeah, to go back to your point, that would probably be number 2 or maybe arguably number 1. The idea that at any given time, the central bank can go edit a number in a database, and all of a sudden, let's say there was $100 bills, US dollar bills in circulation, I had one of them. Now they've doubled it. Now my money is worth half of what it was.
Exactly.
It's legalized counterfeiting, right? They're taking. I don't think they do it for malicious intent. I think it's just an uncontrollable part of financial policy that has led to some really bad effects in certain countries, like you said, Zimbabwe or Venezuela. So the fact that there's the instability of that and the potential for chaos, and then the fact that at any given time someone can just change it, it seems very controlling or manipulative. So absolutely on that. I could very well see current fiat systems, US dollar, the yuan, the euro, all those things living side by side with a Bitcoin system where everyone, let's say 30, 40, 50 years down the road, is bought into Bitcoin. People use it. They can use applications on their phone or even get paid by their employer. Like, let's say your payroll paid you in Bitcoin, and when you went to go spend money at a store, you used an application that automatically converted it from Bitcoin, 0.00 whatever, into however many euros, pounds, dollars, whatever. And you end up having a system where, all right, I still have to pay my taxes in US dollars, and there's no way around that. Whether they have a tax on Bitcoin to US dollar transfers, I don't know. But I can imagine a world where that friction of doing those conversions, the cost of doing those conversions is minimalized, and you have a system where you still owe whoever you owe in your certain fiat money, but you basically are operating on Bitcoin. And maybe people even start thinking about how many Satoshis a Starbucks coffee is. Who knows?
I mean, it seems like South America is kind of taking the headway on this in terms of a hybrid system, because a lot of their countries have super inflated national currencies, and they're willing, or maybe they're forced, to be the first ones to offer crypto as a nationwide commodity. Southeast Asia is also seeming to do that, and I'm sure the US and Western Europe are going to be the last to adopt it, maybe because for the most part we need it the least. I could see it transitioning into a hybrid model in 20 years. They would definitely go that way first instead of just a complete flop into crypto.
Right. Why hasn't gold gone up? I mean, obviously commodities like gold and silver, etc., are actual things we use. I mean, they're in our computers, they're in our phones, they're everywhere. Why has Bitcoin stole the thunder and not gold? I mean, obviously gold is what used to, until recently, like we're saying the last 10 years, Bitcoin has stolen the limelight. I mean, that's where the money is going. It's definitely going into crypto to hedge against the inflation that we're currently having and crappiness of bonds and all this other stuff. Like, why isn't it gold? And why is it Bitcoin?
I think you have your reasons of, number one, scarcity, right? Like the gold supply, I think it's still going up at around 2% a year, and nothing is stopping any person, country, institution from finding a supply of gold, like, tons and tons and tons of gold, right? That would dilute the supply. Everyone who has gold now has less gold. There's also not a guaranteed way to track gold, right? Like Bitcoin, you will always know how much is essentially in supply, how much there will always be, and it's never going to go up or down. So I think the scarcity of digital gold, aka Bitcoin, is very enticing. I think a lot of people are still riding the wave that the economy is still doing incredible. So rather than getting into gold, which is more conservative, kind of like the bonds you're talking about, they're like, well, if I can still make 10% on the S&P, 16% on the S&P, or whatever, my portfolio is still going up by 30%, like, all right, I'll ride that wave out, as opposed to just like letting it sit pretty much flat in gold. I don't know why gold hasn't gone up really much at all, especially kind of throughout the pandemic, but those would be my ideas.
I would think on a more psychological basis, and it's funny that we're talking about gold, but people love shiny things. And right now that's crypto, specifically Bitcoin, because there's the idea of, I forgot what the guy's name was on Lex Friedman's podcast, but he was saying like the always go up phenomenon. And that's all we've been seeing for the last, you check the 1 year charts, Ethereum's up 950%. You check Bitcoin, I'm pretty sure it's up somewhere around like 250, maybe 300. So you see those numbers and everybody has FOMO. So why wouldn't you start putting your dollars towards that if you believe through, obviously, past charting, you could see that same return in the next period?
No, that's actually my thought on it too. I think it's actually greed, and not the fact that gold probably is being crushed by the biggest people, the one percenters maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of those people have dollars and they are probably scared of Bitcoin, the fact that it could, or scared of inflation, that it could wipe it out. And then the only thing that we would have left in time, we're not probably talking about our lifetime, I hope not, but just in time, their riches would just be basically garbage. But I think it's true. I think it's just genuinely just the shiny thing in the sky right now, and everyone's trying to achieve it. And goddamn, it just does not go down. I mean, it kind of blows me away that, like I said, I had it at 3,000. It went up when it did return to 20,000. I was like,
this is the top.
Yeah, this is the top. Like, I'm gonna just sell it. And I sold a little, and then it went to 25 and 30. I was like, oh, I'll sell a little bit more. And then my friends were like, dude, like, this is crazy. Should I sell my $200 worth? I'm like, yeah, bro, get rid of it. And then it goes up again, and they're like, dude, I missed out on $17. And it's like it just doesn't go up. So I agree. I think you're right. I think the market is turning towards crypto, and everyone wants to see that 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% returns. But at the end of the day, does it actually have meaning? Or is it just a hype train in the fact that eventually FOMO and practicality will just wipe it away?
I think it's here for the long run. I really do. I think it has all the properties of money. It's divisible. It's portable as could be. It's literally like sending light across a wire. It's recognizable. It's scarce, and it's durable. Like it's never going to go away.
I mean, a $1.1 trillion market cap probably agrees with you.
I think you're seeing a lot of, like, Tesla played around with putting it on their balance sheet. There's a handful of other companies that have. I think when it really like insurance companies start backing up some of their assets with Bitcoin, and a lot of the mainstream companies really start getting into it, I think the floodgates candidly have already opened. But I think when you really start seeing these institutional guys throw billions of dollars at it, I think it's only a matter of time. Follow the money, right? Where people build applications on top of Bitcoin, and then the average bear who will never spend the amount of time to learn how it actually works will just be able to use it, not know how incredible it is, and life just goes on.
Well, what got you into it recently? Because Bitcoin's been around for a little bit. Not that I've talked about it too much, but obviously I've had a few dollars in it thanks to my co-host here. What sparked your interest, since it's not that you're late to the train, who knows how far it can go, but in that sense, why did you start paying attention to it as of late?
So I got a guy that I work with. This is how all these things start, right? And every other month he'd say, Bitcoin up 10 grand, Bitcoin up 500, Bitcoin up whatever. And I was like, yeah. And I had known about the technical side of it, the protocol side of it from years and years and years ago. I think like 2014 when I first heard about it, and I was like, yeah, this is just some weird garbage. Like, who's really going to just put value into something just because it's a good system? I don't know. But yeah, a guy at work was just in my ear all the time about it. And I started doing more homework. And originally with Bitcoin, everything I did was just looking into the mechanics of it. I hadn't gotten into the, like, people who talk about it a lot on YouTube who are geniuses side of it. So I inevitably fell down into the Bitcoin rabbit hole this time around because YouTube now has so much content with a lot of smart people talking about it. And it took all of, 2 days of hearing people talk about the implications of the protocols, and also 10 years of watching the number go up and up and up and up. And at this point I was like, well, I understand the system pretty good, and it seems like it's worked really well. And some of the smartest people I've ever heard talk are also backing it and have 90% of their net worth in it. All right, I'll throw some of my money at this thing.
Yeah, and obviously no one is should be ashamed, honestly, to be buying if you believe in it. It really doesn't matter if the scarcity is true, which obviously it is.
That's what an investment is, baby.
Right. You just got to buy, and the thing is to hold. It is an insanely wild asset, if you want to quote, put quotes around that word. I think it is for sure. This is not the bottom, or I'm sorry, this is not the top. I don't think so. At least I think it'll probably go to 100. I think just people like round numbers. I think people will literally push things up to be like, it's going to go. And then they just keep eating it up.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier in our previous conversation, is that a lot of Bitcoin's, I guess, internet fame is just through supporters. Like, it's not known through anything else, which is good in its own way, because I think that creates a support for it. But I think it's also suspicious in my head, because I'm like, is anything worth what it's numbered at right now? And that goes down to shares of stocks or companies or this or that. I think, everything's overextended. But then again, you look at the last year's charts or 2 years, and
6 months ago,
how much money has been missed out on in my account, because I was like, this is the top. These companies aren't worth what's on
paper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's on their spreadsheets.
Do you like any other coin besides Bitcoin, or do you just think Bitcoin is the king, and that it'll always be the king?
I think it's the king. I do. They call that type of person a Bitcoin maximalist. It's someone who's like into crypto, but is basically just all in on Bitcoin. I'd say that's probably where I'm at right now. I have been dipping my toes into Ethereum a little bit. But I do actually think, to my point earlier, that Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, the genius, I think he was 19 at the time, Russian guy that invented it, I think he just saw way far down the line the implications of what a blockchain could enable. Mm-hmm. And he cut certain corners in his implementation of Ethereum and Ether in order to get to market, or at least experiment with the smart contracts, which is their bread and butter. Right. And I think ultimately Ethereum won't win out, but I think it will have paved the way for someone to build smart contracts on top of Bitcoin, which is more sound money. Like, Ether is still connected to fiat currency. Bitcoin is literally sound money. It's digital gold, and it has and will take people longer to develop on top of it. But that would be my 2 cents on that. I think they cut some corners to show a proof of concept, and okay, it works. That's awesome. Is it here for the long haul? Not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I have definitely invested in many coins, Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple. I have an insane amount of this coin you've never heard of. It's called Reddcoin. It's number 458 on the chart. If Bitcoin's number 1, so you have to go 457 to see mine. And it's worth 0.704 of one Bitcoin. But dude, I have like 100,000. So when that mother trucker hits,
it's gonna go through the roof.
Your boy's buying us tickets.
Boy.
Domino's is on the house, dude. But the reason why I picked that coin, which, I mean, again, I describe it as the Wild West. I mean, I was just throwing money at anything, dude. Like, coins,
throwing it to the wall and seeing what sticks.
Hexacoin, which doesn't even exist. This is a coin that I literally bought the ICO and banked on, honestly. I mean, I definitely cashed out on money, but I just kept money in. I was like, well, let me just take out 5,000 and I'll put the 25 that's still in, and I'll just keep, and then it goes away and I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? But anyway, this one coin is supposedly, Reddcoin is supposedly working with like social media. So I thought maybe, I mean, social media is pretty big. Maybe in time this will work. Do I have realistic expectations? No. Like, honestly, I think it's garbage. But hey, I don't know. It was like $500, but I bought like, I don't know. I literally have like 80,000 coins of it.
Who just got bought the other day? You were talking about Stellar. Who purchased them?
No, Stellar has been like with banks, or maybe that's a Ripple. I'm sorry, but one of them has been like with banks. Like, you never know. You just never know which one's going to hit. You know, it's like saying Amazon was the Amazon. You know, nobody knew Amazon was going to be Amazon until it happens. And it's just like the thing you just got to do is basically be ready to sit and just wait it out.
Exactly. Like Solana. I've never heard of that. Maybe you guys have. Top charts today, up almost 8%.
Yeah, it's like what caused that, and will it go down 16 tomorrow?
Yeah, and there's
volatility.
One called the Graph, up 10%. What is that? Why is that?
What is it? Yeah, exactly. I don't know. All I know is just talking about you guys going on and on about the hype train. I think it's like I second-handedly know someone who became a millionaire off Doge, and I mean, you see those kinds of things. So exactly like you said, sure, $500 for the chance for this to potentially go to the moon. I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I use a website called coinmarketcap.com. There is 67 pages worth of cryptos totaling 6,683 currencies. Astounding. The bottom one.
Give it a month.
The bottom one is up. I mean, down 1% on the week, but the worst, literally the worst. It's like, holy cannoli. I mean, that is a thing about it. It's like, here's another one. Do you guys even believe or trust NFTs?
Oh, NFTs to me, I guess the premise of those is that it might be cool to be one of 5 people that owns a song made by Drake or something like that. But it's like,
dude, even
if
the
everyone
Charlie
can still listen to it, who cares about owning it?
You know the Charlie bit my finger? Remember that YouTube?
Yep.
That was sold as an NFT.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. It's hard for me to look at it and not laugh, but I also can imagine that becoming something that is worth something in the future.
But here is the problem. I think the real root of the problem is greed, and there is just too much money. And I'm not trying to say that people can't invest and get wealth. I mean, I am 100% for that. I hope to be more so in that career in my life at some point. But it just goes to show that, I mean, people are buying like game-generated rooms, like a room that's just a video game, basically like a Minecraft, like original craft, and they're buying it. It's like anybody could make that. I mean, if you just, you saw it enough, you could make the exact same thing. I don't understand how someone could find that valuable or wish to waste their money on it. But hey, there's so much money in the world. I guess go for it.
But I mean, why does anything have value?
Exactly. Why does anything have value? Right.
Why do we care about diamonds? There's really,
diamonds are garbage.
There are certain uses for it, like, I mean, in terms of cutting through rock or anything like that, but they're really not worth anything.
They're not
just
rare.
A rock, you know, it's like coal or anything else, dirt. It's just, we just love choosing one thing and being like, that's worth something.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I don't really buy it, but it kind of has the same feeling in my gut as when I first heard about Bitcoin. And I'm like, that will never be a thing. Who would ever buy into that? And then all of a sudden, I don't know, especially with the art or like the Charlie bit my finger, I'm like, all right, I can understand. Like a Picasso is rare because there's a market of people who love fine art and they love Picasso specifically, and they want to have the one thing in their physical ownership forever. Awesome. To have the ownership rights to something, but everyone else can still like see it and use it. To me, I don't buy it.
Dude, today I was reading that the color blue is getting scarce. So it's like now
for paint.
Yeah, exactly. Is like blue things just going to go up in value? It probably would. I don't even have like that much doubt in it.
Yeah, I got a 10 by 10 blue rug I'm standing on right now. This thing is dollar signs below me.
Get off of it right now.
Get a Stanley steamer at your house. Yeah, clean that bitch off.
And put that on eBay.
And get it on eBay as an NFT.
Why blue paint? I've always heard that. I have
no
like,
idea.
blue.
I didn't really read the article that much, but
yeah, I guess there's some component to it or whatever material that is super hard to find nowadays, and a lot of paint suppliers or manufacturers are having a big problem.
That same premise happened with flags. Do you remember? I think you might know this, but the color purple in flags is very rare because it was a very hard color to make. So people just couldn't.
Purple in anything.
Yeah, no, purple in anything really, but especially back in the day, it was a very, very hard color. So that's why you don't see purple around.
Purple's like the color of royalty as well. Like
Purple blood.
Yeah, maybe that's why it was like if you were rich enough to even afford things that were purple, yeah, you had money.
You had Bitcoin back then.
All right, boys. Well, I think this is where we should end it. Any last words?
Bitcoin's going all the way. Buy now.
All the way.
I should have bought anything earlier and I would have had more money in my pocket than I do now. Doesn't even need to be Bitcoin.
Let's just put a disclaimer again on it, people. We are not here to sell or give financial advice, but do it anyway.
That's it.
All right, boys. You have a good night.
Thanks for having me.
Ciao pace.